there are those on YouTube and elsewhere who wish to deny the black African presence in Europe. They post their little videos with drawings and things depicting Moors as other than black, and would suggest to you that if there were blacks involved in the Moorish expansion in Europe, then they would be black slaves. The ignorant would have you believe that the only role that black Africans have played historically is as slaves. Now, these images tell the story. Not much more needs to be said. And of course, the ignorant and uninformed Eurocentrist and white supremacists would suggest that perhaps these are relatively recent artifacts created by Afrocentrists and a fantasy. I'm not going to give you a history on these images and who these characters represent and where they are found at even today, because I would prefer that the detractors go ahead and expose their own ignorance by making such statements. Historians and those who know, and those who are art curators and such, understand and know the value of the artifacts you are looking at. Most of the detractors could never afford even the most inexpensive of these objects because they are historical truths. They represent a time when people who looked like the images you are looking at were in control. And we're not talking about Africa, we're talking about Europe. And that's a history that most people do not know about. And many of those who do know want to deny it. They want to make the Moors something other than what they were. Again, these images speak for themselves. We're not looking at slaves. We're looking at the people that were in control and had the wealth and brought knowledge and education to a country that was fading, basically drowning in its own urine, so to speak, what they call the Dark Ages. A culture to where it was considered a sin to take a bath. Again, the artifacts we're looking at are historical, extremely valuable, and you can go to Europe for yourself, to Venice, to Germany, to Madrid, to Luxembourg, and see many of these artifacts, which are there even to this day. Those who would deny the truth sometimes know the truth, but just don't want others to find out the truth. See, I'm showing images that no person in their right mind would ever suggest are other than Negroid. Many of the Moors were of a lighter skin complexion, particularly after a period of time. They were there for approximately 7 centuries, over 700 years that they were in control. And as it usually is with invaders, they do not bring their women and children with them. The women of the culture they overthrow become the spoils of war. So there does become a lightening of complexions. So if you think about it, it only makes sense that if the Moors invaded and did not bring their own women with them and instead took wives and concubines from the natives who were of a white complexion for the most part, that eventually their offspring would become lighter and lighter. It is a historical fact that the Moors at some point required in certain cities 100 virgins to be given to them as tribute. And from those 100 white virgins, they had children who did in fact rise to positions of leadership within the Moorish Empire. So of course there was a lightening of the complexion of the Moors, but what you're looking at is authentic, genuine, original Moors, the black Moors, the ones that those who represent Eurocentricity want to deny ever existed.